Hey, it's Leanne and Simon on Loving Life now with today's topic, the pain game. You going to talk?
Am I going to talk? Well, a big welcome to everyone joining us on our Facebook Live this evening here at Loving Life Now.
Yes.
As you've joined us, pop your details in. Let us know you are here. We're running a couple of minutes behind schedule tonight.
That's all your fault.
It's my fault. So we're talking about the pain game. We're here to talk about, oh, look, Liz. G'day, Liz.
Hey, Liz.
Liz is watching. Cheryl's watching down in Sydney, still in lockdown. So pop your details in the comments. Let us know you're here. We'd love to welcome you. And where are you streaming in from this evening? We've got people streaming in from all over Australia and around the world. Yes. Hello, Liz. Welcome.
I'm just sharing.
So pop your details in. Let us know you're here. We've got a great topic. Shani from Sydney. Good evening. Hi, Shani. Welcome. Trust you're managing lockdown in Sydney. George says, hi, I'm here in Melbourne. G'day, George. Who else we got out there? Pop your details in the comments. Let us know. Come and say hello. Lee's just sharing it across our social media. Cheryl says, hi all. Lockdown becoming rubbery.
Hey,
Kim.
Laurie.
G'day, Kim. Welcome to you. Hello to Laurie from Calgary in Canada. That'd be nice and early over in Calgary. Peggy says, hi guys, nice to see you from a chilly Bustleton. Nice. Welcome, Peggy. Should Elizabeth said something, I missed that. Let me just go back.
Liz is from South Australia.
Oh, yes, she is. What else we got? Liz from South Australia. Jacinta, hi to you both, lovely to see you. G'day, Jacinta. Kath Dalgleish over there in WA, in Bunbury, not far from where Peggy is at the moment. G'day to you, Kath. Gabby Viner says hello. G'day, Gabby. Nice to see you here this week. G'day, Simon Leanne. Good to be here with you. Who else we got? Agatha. Agatha's streaming in from Melbourne. Bet you it's chilly in Melbourne. It's chilly here on the Gold Coast.
Here.
It's currently 11 degrees here.
Oh, they're like, oh, that's warm.
Probably. But look, we've got a great topic.
Queenslanders.
We are Queenslanders and we're used to warm weather. And it is a little bit brisk, but we've got a good topic lined up called the pain game.
Yeah.
We're going to play a game about pain.
No, thanks.
No good? Doesn't sound any good?
No.
All right. Agatha says it's freezing. I don't know whether she's saying it's freezing here at 11 degrees.
What's the temperature down in Melbourne, Agatha?
Or freezing in Melbourne. It's probably 4 degrees.
Hey, Stephen.
All right. So we're going to talk about, the last couple of weeks, Lee, we've spoken about fixing our mix. Mm-hmm. And about our mix, we talked about what is our mix, right?
Yep.
And we talked about the timeline and the creating the memories of things that happened in our life. Mm-hmm. And we spoke about fixing them.
Yep.
And this week we're talking about the pain game, and it sort of goes on the back of fixing our mix.
Okay.
Because when we did that task over the last couple of weeks, what we uncovered. And Miles says, "G'day from a very cool Fraser Coast." G'day, Miles. It's cool here on the Gold Coast. What we uncovered were things that impacted our life, both negatively and positively, right? So talking about the pain game tonight rolls in from that. Agatha said it's the same temperature in Melbourne. Look at that, 11 degrees.
That's matchy.
It's 11 degrees here, matching 11. It's lucky 11. All right. So tonight we're going to explore the pain game.
Excuse me.
So I've got a bit of a thing to think about for a moment. So if we want to think of our mind. Think of your mind, Lee, like a computer.
All right.
So your mind, your brain is a bit like a computer, and it takes computing power for you to run your body. Mm-hmm. That makes sense, doesn't it?
Yes.
Like to move your arms.
Well, like the brain's like the, what is it called?
The CPU.
Is that what that is?
The motherboard? The motherboard. So your brain's a bit like the motherboard, and it takes power for you to run your body, right?
Yes.
And to do daily routines.
Yes.
Right? Which is true, right? So your brain has that power, bit like a computer. So it also runs our day-to-day life that we create and the habits that we create. Mm-hmm. So we create habits in our life, but why do we create habits?
Because it makes life easier.
Yeah, it does. It makes life easier. So we create habits because they become things that we do effortlessly.
Correct.
And easily.
Less effort, less work,
less computing power, right? So we create habits so that we have less computing power to deal with on a day-to-day basis, right?
Yeah.
And that way we can do those regular tasks easily.
Yes.
And effortlessly. Mm-hmm. All right. So habits are like programs in our mind. Mm-hmm. So we program our mind that every day you're going to wake up and you're going to be grateful for me.
You guys compute that in my head.
That's
I've got an eyelash in my eye.
while you're sleeping. I'm going to be telling you that in your mind. Who's that? Transform for Abundance. Hello all. Anastasios from Qatar. G'day,
Yeah.
Anastasios. Welcome. All right. So you've got these programs that are running in your mind, which are a bit like what we just spoke about, a bit like habits.
Software.
Yeah, a bit like habits, right?
Yeah.
So we create these, and those programs also run problems that are in our mind.
Mm-hmm.
Like they deal with problems and they run the problems, and it's how we handle things in our brain, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is by creating habits, having programs running. But this programming can be good and bad.
Yes.
We can program negative things in our
Yeah.
mind, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and those negative things can hold us back. So we want to look at the past failures that we had. We want to run a program in our mind that the program will continue to run, right? If we have a past failure and we program it into our mind, it will continue to run until we put a stop to it.
Yes.
Agree?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And we've got to do two things to change that programming.
Okay.
All right. And number one.
Learn more about the natural law that governs success and failure.
Yeah. So learn about the natural law that governs success and failure.
Mm-hmm.
So that makes sense, right? We've got this programming in our mind of things that are holding us back from past experiences. And now we want to change that. So we want to learn more about the natural law that governs success and failure.
Yes.
All right. And the second thing we can do is uncover previous unacknowledged or unknown information about those situations.
Okay.
Because if we have problems in the past, the worst thing we can do is not deal with them.
Yes.
Would you agree?
Yeah, if you just ignore them, they're not going to go away.
No?
No.
Can't you sweep
Be
them?
nice.
Can't you sweep them under the carpet or like lift
That
up
would
the
be
rug
lovely. Yeah, it would be
and
really
put it
good.
under the rug? All right. So unsolved failures continue to drain our mental state.
Computer's power.
Yep. And it continues to be an unsolved problem. Agree?
Yes.
So it's still in the mind. It drains us. It's a bit like you getting attacked by the cat.
Or maybe you getting attacked by the dog.
And we're still going on about this 3 weeks later, but these are real things, right? These are things that have drained our mindset over the time because, now you're scared of cats.
Yes, babe.
No, just joking. All right, so people tend to do two things about their failures that they've created in the past. What
Well,
are
I
they?
choose to ignore the past.
Well, that's one of the things that people will do is ignore it. So you think that's a good answer?
Well, it's not a good answer. It's one of the
That's
answers.
one of the answers. And the other ones is people will dwell in the past.
And go on and on and on and on.
Do you
about
know this one time I had
And
this
they can.
experience and it's shook me and it's rattled me and you just get stuck in drama glue, right?
it. Yeah.
And we spoke about that over the last couple of weeks as well. Stacey, what did she say?
She says, is it easy to turn a negative into a positive?
Well, we'll talk about that. And yeah, we can, absolutely. And there is a technique to doing that, which is really important. So ignoring the past may be manageable for some, but only short term.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you can ignore it for a short term. Longer term, it continues to be unresolved. And the more energy you use and the more brain power and energy you use to actually deal with that unresolved issue. Right? So ignoring past problems altogether is
Unhealthy.
unhealthy. It's not healthy, is it?
No.
Does it affect people to ignore problems? Like physically,
Yeah.
health-wise?
Yes,
Like,
definitely. It's disease in your mind. So
Yeah,
it causes
so
disease in your body.
So you've seen people who have been unwell and got sick because they've become so overwhelmed with
And
past
stressed
problems.
with problems.
Yeah. All right. And so have I. So you'll do two things to keep from ruining. What have I got here? Keep from running into similar circumstances. Right. Your mind will do two things because you don't want the more of the same thing. Okay. So you'll go into protective mode. How do I protect myself against those past experiences that I've had that are coming up as real life issues in my life?
So then
today?
you're running on flight and fight, which is
Absolutely.
not good.
No, that's not good. And it forces you to play a smaller game in your life. right?
You start living in this little box here instead of
Out there.
that.
Because you're scared of repeating the failures?
Yep.
Yep. So the failures become real. You go into protective mode, and you start protecting yourself from the possibility
Of it happening again.
of it happening again. All right. So it is not it's not a failure that creates problems in our lives, but it's avoiding it. Right? So it's not a failure that creates problems in our lives. It's actually avoiding it. Now, we also hold on to the pain that's attached to those failures, and it keeps us from repeating it,
Yep.
which is a no-win situation for anybody. It's a no-win situation for either of us, for those around you, for anything, right? So how do we overcome the pain game? And this is a game, right? So how do we handle it? Bless you. Bless you.
Sorry.
All right.
In my eye.
G'day, Mark. Mark's just joined us a little bit late. He says, hi, guys. G'day, Mark.
Oh, Mark, you're late.
So how do we handle this? How do we handle this situation of creating these past problems from stifling us and holding us back? Like, how do we handle it?
So you got to get over the needing to be right in your life. The more you feel this need, the less likely you will find the core distinction of the failure.
Right. So if you want to be right about a past situation, the more you want to do that, the more you hold yourself back from finding that core distinction to overcome that failure. Right? So it's a big thing. And it's a way of surrendering, right? So sometimes we've got to surrender to things that have happened in our past, and we've got to accept them for what they are. And I can't remember who it was that asked the comment earlier about can we turn a negative into a positive?
Yeah.
And there's a really great tool that I've learned over the years in the personal development, and that is that when there's a negative situation, look for the good in it. Right? So that's the first thing.
Learning.
So what's good about it? Now, you could find it very challenging to find the good, but what's the good in it? And then what can I learn from it? And we've got to also take responsibility.
Yes.
Do you agree? We're going to take responsibility for the role that we played in that situation. And it may not have all have been you or me, or might have been somebody else involved,
Yes.
right? But we've got to take responsibility for that situation and move past it.
Yeah.
Agreed? Yeah. All right. So in our minds, we often seek to assign meanings to mistakes, things that we've done wrong. We attach a meaning to it.
Yeah.
And that really clouds us from moving forward. So when the price of being wrong is so great that you cannot stand the thought of it, it takes more mental mindset and power than it should to do the same task again today.
Okay.
Right? Because you're so scared. You're living on the edge because you're worried about the fact that you could repeat that same failure or that same mistake again and again. So you're not operating optimally in your mindset.
Yeah.
All right. So people who have been heavily criticised in the past typically have a harder time dealing with and getting free from past failures as well, because they have the risk and the pain associated with it. Now, often it's a common technique for people to criticise rather than educate.
Yeah.
Now, who are some people that do that? Do you know people that do that? Like roles of people, not specific people. So I'll give you a couple of examples. So parents can be one.
Oh, yeah.
So parents can often go into a role of criticising rather than educating.
Yep.
Right? That can be a common thing. Teachers, that can be a common area in a teaching scenario where you're teaching other people. It can be often about criticising rather than educating. And this, of course, it can become very common. But what it does is it also, the pain of being criticised drives compliance. Right? So if somebody's going to be criticised constantly for doing something, they're going to strive to comply so they don't get criticised.
Yeah.
So it's a bit of a negative effect, right? So we'll negatively criticise, but then we're going to actually allow those people to overcome it because they'll become compliant. A bit like lockdowns, really.
Yeah.
Don't you think?
Yep.
So we get criticised about what we do in life. You know, don't get too close. Make sure you're wearing a mask. Sneeze into your elbow. So we're being taught. We're being taught to be compliant.
Yeah.
Right? In today's society. So how do we operate around this? Do you think that we go out feeling a little bit anxious? And there's probably some people that do.
Yeah.
Go out feeling pretty anxious about going to shopping centres.
Well, there's people that just don't go out.
Yeah. And getting too close to others, and somebody coughs or sneezes and you run a mile.
Like I did today at the hairdressers.
At the hairdressers?
Because you can't have your mask on when they're doing your hair because the thing goes around your ear. Anyway, I like sneezed and then I coughed. I'm like, oh.
See, you manufacture this mindset around
Oh my God.
something that's going on, right?
Everyone looks at you.
So one of the things that we've got to do to overcome this is we've got to get past this conditioning, this belief system that we hold in our mind, and we've got to create the space for a clearer and more honest point of view.
Okay.
Right? So we've got to get past the stuff that's holding us back. So there's a couple of things that we can do. Number one, what can we do?
Let our guard down.
Let our guard down. Is that easy to be done?
No.
Is it easy for people to let their guard down around things that have maybe impacted them in the past?
No.
Yeah. So often we talk to people about our businessly, and they may have had a past experience in a home-based business.
Oh, I've got a friend of a friend that failed in a business 20 years ago.
Right. And they told me that I should never do that.
Yeah.
But, or they may have had an experience. They might have tried something and it not totally worked out for them. So they create this story in their mind around the ability for them to repeat or create success in something that's not even the same, but it's a work from home business, right? So do you hear a lot of that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, we get a lot of that. All right. So let your guard down. What's the next thing we can do?
Allow any possibility to be okay.
All right. So be open to possibilities. Like, I remember when I got started in the industry 13 years ago, one of the things that was really at the forefront was, what's the possibility? Like, what could you create in 1 year, 3 years, or 5 years from now? So what's really possible? And allow yourself to allow that possibility of what could happen, what you could create. Because often people say, well, what if it doesn't work for me? So what's your response? Yes. What's your response?
What if it does?
What if it does? But what if I fail?
What if you don't?
What if you succeed? Fancy that. What if you succeed? So we've got to not resist against the inevitable, right? We've got, because there is an inevitable outcome, but we want to not resist about it. And we want to contemplating the worst possible thing without defending against it. So often people will contemplate the worst thing, but we don't need to then go and defend against it. All right. And it helps us handle things from the past. Like I said, somebody who has had an experience in a particular scenario, if they change the way that they think in this, it can help them move forward.
Yeah.
All right. So focus on your past wins. That's the second thing that you've got to do. Do we talk about focusing on our past wins often, don't we?
We do.
All right. So why do you want to focus on your past wins?
Because it's where you found joy in your life.
Yeah. Yeah. So have you got lots of situations in your life that have been joyful, that have brought...
Oh, when I married you, babe.
Oh, see, you're so sweet.
That's what you wanted me to say.
I was going to say, I'll slip you $100 over. All right, so we found joy in your life.
Yes.
Right? So there's lots of situations where you find joy in your life, and it's something that we really can focus on. So focus on your wins. What are some of the great things that you've been able to achieve? And they can be really small, but they can be great.
Yeah.
Right? They don't have to be great, big, grand. They can be small, wonderful wins. There's lots of things in our life, isn't there?
So SWW, is that a new thing?
SW.
No, just SWW.
What's that one?
Small, wonderful wins.
Small, wonderful wins. Yeah, that's good. Small, wonderful wins. All right. So we've got to not allow pessimism to enter our personal self, right? So don't be pessimistic about situations because it can stifle success. So the biggest stifler of success is people allowing themselves to become pessimistic about things, right? So that's a big thing. So when you're feeling like you're winning or you're losing, you've got to take the time to focus on your past wins. So always focus on your past wins.
Yep.
And what does that create? It creates
Good maintenance.
good maintenance. Maintenance of what?
Your head.
Yeah, head. It's maintenance of your mind, right? It's feeding your mind. It's a bit like we also know that you don't allow weeds to grow in your brain.
No.
You've heard that saying, haven't you?
Yes.
Yeah. So we don't allow weeds to grow in our mind from a personal development perspective. You want to declutter and de-weed your thinking, right?
Right.
All right. So, and it also gives you a much needed perspective adjustment. And sometimes we just need a perspective adjustment when we're looking at things. And it can be you that could give it to me, or I could give it to you, or we could offer it to somebody else.
Okay.
Right? A perspective adjustment. Somebody might come to you and say, "Oh, but what about this? I've done this before and it didn't work for me, or I'm really challenged by this." And if you just share a different perspective, sometimes that can be a huge adjustment for that person in their thinking.
Yes.
And what would that allow?
A change in thinking.
Yeah, it would allow them to go, "Oh, okay, I never actually thought of that." Bless you again. I never actually thought of that, and I didn't look at it like that.
Yeah.
So look back with a quick glimpse. This is number 3. So we spoke, number 1 was let your guard down and allow the possibilities. Number 2 was to focus on your past wins. And number 3 is to look back at the things that have happened with a very quick glimpse of the negative high impact events. Find some piece of truth in them, journal about it, and then go and revel in a win.
Okay.
So what did we talk about before? We mentioned, how do you overcome negative situations? You look for a good thing. What's the good thing in there, right? And then what can I take away and learn from it?
Yeah.
And you've got to find that good thing in a negative situation.
Yeah.
All right. So finally, what are you going to do?
Free yourself from creating negative things again.
Yeah, you've got to free yourself from creating negative things again. Negative stories in our life hold us back, Lee. So have you got a situation in your life where maybe you held yourself back that you can think of, where something happened and you didn't go and do it again because you had a negative situation?
Stand-up paddleboarding.
Stand-up paddleboarding? that was my attempt last time you videoed it and put it on TikTok. Well, that was a bad paddleboard. It was like a foamy one. It was. I kept falling off.
No, I'm talking about me.
What did you do?
So we actually had lessons. And so we went on the paddleboard. And
you weren't trying to do yoga on it?
No. We just actually paddleboarding. And the instructor actually pushed me off because he said I was being too stiff.
Being too stiff.
And so he pushed me off, and that made it 10 times worse because it was like water and you couldn't see the bottom.
Oh, so you cracked it?
I cracked it.
Cracked it, stormed off, and you've never done it again?
Pretty much.
I was thinking about riding a bike for you.
Why?
Well, you don't ride bikes anymore because you had an experience, didn't you?
Yeah, but I've ridden a bike since then. It's just I just choose not to. But it's not that I wouldn't ride one.
Okay,
I wouldn't do stand-up paddleboarding.
You wouldn't do stand-up paddleboarding? All right.
So that's not my thing.
So that's
unless the water's crystal clear
like
and I
the
can
Maldives.
see to the bottom. Yes,
like
I'll do it in the Maldives.
You do it in the Maldives.
Yeah.
Or you might do it in the Whitsundays somewhere in Australia if there's crystal clear water.
But not in the canal.
No sharks or stingrays.
No.
All right. And no canals.
No.
All right. So there's situations that we all have in our life that we create stories, we hold on to, and then we don't allow ourselves to move forward because of a past experience. So we've spoken about how to overcome those, how to stop the pain game, and all those things create us pain, right? So it's about a game to overcome it. How do we overcome those situations? We've got to move forward through them, and we've got to do those things.
Bernie says, love stand-up paddle, want to backflip on one. And Mark said he saw you fall off on the video.
Yeah, thanks, Mark. That was hilarious. That was
Gabby, I don't blame you, Lee. The bike seats are the worst.
Bike seats. Oh my goodness. Yeah, well, Mark saw the video that you put up on TikTok. That was funny.
It was pretty
just
funny.
Very funny, laughing about me trying to me, the surfer, standing up on a paddleboard. Not standing up on a paddleboard.
Not standing up on a paddleboard.
All right, so that's our topic for this evening, the pain game. And certainly, explore those situations in your mind that maybe are past experiences that have held you back or have got you stuck. and how do you overcome them, and maybe implement some of the tips that we've given you today that can assist you in just addressing them.
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing is be aware, have an awareness around, to actually be aware that you're choosing to allow something to hold you back because of a past experience that may not have been positive. And how do we overcome that, right? We've got to move forward powerfully.
Yeah.
Because we've got to grow. We've got to learn as an individual. We've got to deal with things in the past and overcome them. Don't dwell on them. Don't put them under the carpet.
Yes.
Because they fester.
Yes.
Then they get bigger and bigger.
Exactly.
And,
cool. So what have we got happening this weekend?
Last week at the school holidays, we got kids here,
kids are here.
kids back this weekend.
And then next week we're still crossing fingers and toes and everything that we're going to Adelaide.
We're meant to be going to Adelaide next week.
Open the borders.
But at the moment, the
Open
South
the
Australian border is
borders.
closed.
Open.
But you told me there was meant to be an announcement
On Thursday.
Right, Thursday.
So everyone cross everything for us that they've opened the borders.
We just want the Premier of South Australia to open the border. I don't know if, I just told Lee, I don't know if you've watched it, but I just came across a YouTube announcement from Boris Johnson over in the UK. And the UK is about to open up everything as of July the 19th. There will no longer be mandatory lockdowns, no longer mandatory mask wearing. It'll be optional. And they're going to learn to live with COVID, and they're going to fill their sporting stadiums full of people. So, and they currently got 30,000 cases a day. And here we are in Australia with 2 cases, 30 cases, and we're closing everything down. We're a laughing stock to the world at the moment.
Anyway, so Bernie says Adelaide will be open and awesome.
Adelaide will be open and awesome, and I'm looking forward to the wineries.
We open up completely in Alberta, no masks, social distancing,
See?
etc.
That's what the UK's done.
I think New South Wales will continue our shutdown, unfortunately.
Oh my goodness.
Well, that's okay as long as South Australia's open.
I tell you, Australia's going to have to start taking a lead from what the rest of the world are doing. Singapore's come out and said we're no longer treating COVID as a pandemic. We're going to treat it as a case of the flu, and we're going to learn to live with it. And you can get vaccinated, and you can, no more rules on social distancing and masks, and yeah. So there you go in Canada, same thing, right? And
come on, Australia.
I know, and same thing in the UK. And they've said, look, people are going to die from the virus, just like they did from influenza and the flu. And that's we can't keep living life the way we do. So that's it for us.
Bernie
What is
says
it? Bernie
shutdowns in Australia are now stopping. Thank you. And
Yes.
George said for once Melbourne is not in lockdown.
That's right. Yeah, well, the Prime Minister did come out the other day and he said that we were going to move to different stages and avoid lockdowns. And, we just got to stop these premiers from locking our states down.
Yes. Anyway.
All right. Well, that's it for us for this week. Great to be here. We've got a busy week ahead, good weekend planned with the kids, and then back to school next week. We're back into lunches and school runs and pickups. And, oh, my goodness. And then... next week, we've got, hope we'll be on a plane. I changed what I was going to say. We'll be on a plane to Adelaide on Wednesday.
All right, guys. Well, thanks for hanging out with us.
No worries. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you next week for another great topic on Loving Life Now. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.